It was 8 o'clock when Andrew Carter got home from the office. He went straight to the kitchen and made a few of Sophia's favorite dishes. By the time he was done, it was 9:30. An hour later, he mechanically reheated everything. He knew that even if he waited another 2 hours, Sophia might not come home. It was like this every day. He sat in the living room, just as he always did, planning to warm the food a third time whenever she finally walked through the door. But tonight, after only 30 minutes, a new message popped up on his phone. He stared at it for a moment, then stood, walked to the dining table, and scraped every last bit of food into the trash. Just as he was about to take the garbage out, his phone rang. It was Sophia. "Andrew, I'm at the hospital, all alone. You need to come take care of me." Her voice cracked with manufactured panic. "It's all your fault. If it wasn't for all the stress from work, would I have been so exhausted? Would I have lost the baby? Andrew Carter, say something. Are you even a man?" The voice on the other end was escalating into a full-blown scream, but Andrew remained silent. In the past, the slightest hint of Sophia being unwell would have sent him into a frenzy, dropping everything to rush to her side. But now, with Sophia in the hospital right after surgery, her husband, felt an unprecedented calm. He wasn't going anywhere. Andrew glanced at the text message on his phone again and let out a bitter, ironic laugh. "You know damn well how you lost that baby." Before Sophia could respond, he hung up. He pressed the heels of his hands into his eyes, fighting back the tears. His child was gone, and its mother, Sophia, had gotten rid of it on purpose. Her so-called work exhaustion was nothing more than a post-work networking event where she drank until her stomach cramped, finally getting the results she wanted. Her assistant, who knew she was pregnant, had tried to stop her, but Sophia had sent her packing. Andrew had seen the security footage. He saw the blood trickling down her leg, the horrified, pale faces of the people around her. And he saw Sophia's face, a flicker of smile, one of pure relief, before she leisurely dialed 911. She did it on purpose. The moment he saw that smile, he knew. And then another message had arrived, this one from Ethan. "Hey man, I know my sister's a little under the weather. Thanks for making sure she's okay. It was good of her to make some room for my kid. You'll take good care of her, right?" Andrew stared at the message, his knuckles white. He wished he could punch straight through the screen. He never imagined that his own wife would deliberately induce a miscarriage, killing their unborn child, all to repay a debt of gratitude. All because her little brother, Ethan, had told her he wanted a family of his own. So Sophia had decided to give him one. Ethan was an orphan. His older sister, Grace, had been Sophia's best friend. She had died suddenly, and Sophia had never even gotten to say goodbye, only receiving a digital suicide note. The note contained a picture of Ethan and a single line, asking Sophia to look after her little brother. From that day on, whenever Ethan's behavior crossed a line and made Andrew uncomfortable, Sophia would leap to his defense. "Grace was my best friend. He's like a brother to me now. Why are you always picking on a kid?" But Ethan was a scalpel, slicing his way into their lives, carving deep wounds into their relationship. On their 8th wedding anniversary, Andrew waited until the ice cream cake had melted into a puddle, while Sophia, who never came home that night, lost her wedding ring in a game of truth or dare. Ethan had posted a picture of it on Instagram, asking his followers to guess its value. At the Miller Corp annual gala, Ethan had used the excuse of wanting to network to attend as Sophia's date, taking Andrew's place. That night, rumors of a divorce began circulating within her company. Through it all, Sophia acted as if she noticed nothing, enabling his every move. The scalpel wore down their love, and for Sophia's sake, Andrew endured it. Even when Ethan told Sophia he wanted a family, Andrew had simply clenched his jaw and said nothing. Afterward, Sophia had looped her arm through his, joking that she would give her first child to Ethan to repay her debt to Grace, and then they could have their own children. Andrew hadn't taken her seriously then. It was a sick joke. Even though Sophia's care for Ethan had long surpassed that of a doting sister, the idea of surrogacy was absurd. But now Andrew understood. He'd been far too naive. Maybe even Grace's ghost would be shocked to see how far her best friend had taken looking after her brother, all the way to the bedroom. "Mr. Carter, do you have any other instructions for the branch office?" Andrew turned. His assistant, her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, stood at his office door, smiling warmly. From the beginning of his startup, Andrew had wanted to establish his headquarters in Seattle to carry on his parents' dream. But Sophia hadn't wanted to move to the West Coast, so he had opened the main office in Chicago. It was that year they made their pact. "We'll meet at the top." To make that happen, he'd worked tirelessly. Now, with the launch of the Seattle branch, he finally had the momentum to push the company to the next level. With a little luck, he could actually reach the summit. To honor that original dream, he deliberately opened a branch in Seattle. He just never thought it might become his only office. He had stayed in Chicago for Sophia, but after 8 years, their relationship had reached its bitter end. In 3 months, the Seattle office would be operational. He would be starting a new life. #####. 3 days after Sophia was hospitalized, Andrew met with his lawyer to finalize the divorce papers. Once that was handled, he drove to the hospital. As he approached her room, he saw Sophia half reclining in Ethan's arms, pouting playfully. "I woke up last night, and you weren't here. I was so worried." Ethan ran his fingers through her hair. "Tonight, you could just sleep in my arms. I won't move an inch. I'll even carry you to the bathroom." "I'm not going to the bathroom with you," Sophia said, but her cheeks were flushed. Sophia had always been the strong, assertive one. Andrew had never seen this bashful, demure side of her. They were laughing and talking like a couple in the throes of new love. A bitter taste filled his mouth. Thank God, there were only 87 days left until he was free. Andrew took a deep breath and opened the door. The moment Sophia saw him, her face darkened. Her eyes, filled with an undisguisable contempt, shot daggers at him. "So you finally show up. I was starting to think you died in a ditch somewhere. Your wife has a miscarriage, and you don't even bother to come? I must have been blind to marry you. If it weren't for Ethan, I might have actually died in this hospital, all alone." Ethan dropped his senior project halfway through to come see me. Meanwhile, you're so lost in your little money pit, you don't even care about your own wife. Ethan stood up smoothly. "Andrew, you're finally here. Please don't misunderstand. Sophia was just getting anxious waiting for you. I was just trying to comfort her." "Misunderstand what?" Sophia snapped. "This asshole is just pathologically jealous. If he were half as considerate as you, I'd thank my lucky stars." Andrew didn't argue. "In that case, let your little brother take care of you. After all, he's the one you want to see." "Andrew, what the hell is that supposed to mean?" Sophia suddenly shot up, screaming at him. "I'm in the hospital because of you. So why should Ethan have to take care of me? Are you, my husband, trying to shirk your responsibility?" Andrew let out a cold laugh. Because of him? Was she really? Before they were married, Sophia knew how much he wanted kids, so she had specifically told him she didn't want to be tied down. For years, their birth control had been meticulous. It wasn't until recently that Sophia had announced she was ready to start trying. He had been ecstatic. She got pregnant on the first try. He thought it was a gift from heaven, never imagining Sophia would despise the child this much. The very first day, her period was late. When it could have just been a side effect of her heavy drinking, she was already frantically Googling painless abortion procedures. The moment she confirmed the pregnancy, she went bungee jumping with Ethan. Andrew, seeing how reckless she was being, had pleaded with her. "Please, just avoid the dangerous stuff for now. What if you hurt the baby? Just wait. We can do all that after the baby is born, okay?" Sophia had sneered back. "So it's just a baby you want, is that it? It's my body, and I'll do what I want with it. You're not going to control me." Andrew suspected it was the sudden pregnancy, the surge of hormones, that was making her feel insecure. He started coming home early every day to be with her, and on days he sensed her mood was off, he would work from home entirely. Until the day Sophia said she had a small business meeting to attend and ended up in the hospital with a miscarriage. He finally understood. It wasn't that Sophia hated the child. She hated Andrew's child. Indeed, Sophia was in the hospital to get rid of his baby. If it had been Ethan's, this child would have been born. Andrew smiled bitterly, a profound sorrow filling his heart. His one deepest wish was utterly worthless in Sophia's eyes. "What are you smiling at?" Sophia's furious voice cut through his thoughts. She angrily threw back the covers, trying to get out of bed, but Ethan was already there, gently rubbing her back to soothe her. "Soph, the doctor said you can't get worked up right now." Who wouldn't get worked up looking at his miserable, dead-inside face? The verbal assault continued, his silence only fanning her flames. "You said I knew damn well what happened. What's that supposed to mean? You make it sound like I did something to you. I worked my ass off for your career. I lost our child, and you dare say something like that to me? How'd I ever end up marrying you?" Sophia buried her face in Ethan's chest and began to sob. Andrew took a deep breath, clenched his fists, and tried to steady himself. "I've been busy the last few days." "Busy with what?" Sophia's voice was shrill. "Busy day and night, with that pathetic company of yours. You just love money, don't you? You just resent me for not giving you a son to inherit it all? Is that it?" Andrew's cold eyes fell on her. He let out another humorless laugh, turned, and walked away. Sophia froze for a second, then erupted. "Get out, and have the guts to never see me again. Go to hell with your stupid company." Andrew's steps faltered for a fraction of a second. Then he strode out of the hospital without looking back. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Andrew spent 12 days holed up in his home office. He made a list, a comprehensive catalog of every promise he had ever made to Sophia. It was his way of saying goodbye to the past. After all, in 8 years of marriage, Sophia had given him moments where he'd felt the warmth of a real home. When he proposed, he promised he would help her protect her family's company, Miller Corp. When they married, he promised she would always be the boss at home. He had kept every single one, all except one, made when they were 23, "We'll meet at the top." He wanted to do his best to fulfill this final promise before ending the marriage. He poured all his energy into the launch project for the new branch office. The new game design was his gift to the new company. If it could propel them to the top of the industry, it would be the perfect final punctuation mark on their story. He planned to tell Sophia about his push for the summit after she was discharged from the hospital. The design itself would be his parting gift. He was just about to leave the house when he got a call from his assistant. "Mr. Carter, did you enter the next-gen design competition?" "No." His assistant's tone changed instantly. "Mr. Carter, the gold prize winner in the newcomer category. It's identical to your design." Andrew was stunned. He quickly pulled up the competition's official website. There it was in bold letters, a game with the exact same name as his. A cold numbness spread through him as he clicked on the entry. The screen filled with an image of the game's protagonist drinking under the moonlight, preparing for a final, epic battle. "You conquer the North, I'll take the South. Victorious, we'll meet on the summit of Mount Titan." Even the tagline he'd scribbled on a scrap of paper was exactly the same. Andrew took a deep, shaky breath and looked at the creator's name. "Ethan, he stole my work." Andrew shot up and began frantically searching his office for the original manuscript. But after 2 thorough searches, he found nothing. The company had already invested heavily in production, though nothing had been announced publicly. Now, a tidal wave of media coverage was hailing Ethan as a design genius. If his company launched this game now, they'd be branded as plagiarists. Without the manuscript, he had no proof. The moment they released the concept art on launch day, they'd be crucified. But how had the manuscript disappeared? And why would Ethan win an award with his work? He stood frozen in place until Sophia, now discharged from the hospital, walked in. She was flushed, her breath smelling of alcohol. "Why are you looking at me like that? I get out of the hospital, and you can't even be bothered to pick me up." Even her accusatory tone couldn't mask her good mood. "You've been drinking," Andrew stated, his brow furrowing. "Ethan won an award. What's wrong with celebrating with him? He had time to pick me up after winning a gold medal. You're a free man, so what are you doing moping around the house all day? Waiting to die?" Andrew felt a coppery taste in his mouth, as if his throat were clogged with blood. "The project Ethan won with. Did you steal my manuscript and give it to him? Who would wonder stupid things?" Sophia's eyes darted away. After all these years together, Andrew could tell she was lying in an instant. "If it wasn't you, then he came here and stole it himself. I'm calling the police to report a break-in." "No." Sophia snatched the phone from his hand and slammed it on the floor, shattering it. "That was clearly Ethan's idea. He's brilliant. So what's the big deal if he designed a game? You're just jealous he won an award, so you have to throw dirt on his name." Andrew laughed, a bitter, angry sound. "Jealous? You would be jealous of that piece of trash? Have you even looked at the project? The creative inspiration came from the promise we made under the moon before we got married. Don't tell me Ethan had the same experience with you? He had the same epiphany." "Don't you dare make baseless accusations." Sophia's brow tightened. "What epiphany? It's just a game. As his brother-in-law. Why are you picking on a kid? He's my brother. What's wrong with letting him have this? Can't you be more generous?" Sophia's contorted face was that of a stranger, a far cry from the bright, sunny person he remembered. The year they met, Sophia was called a jinx, an outcast in her social circle. But she was stubborn. The more people looked down on her, the harder she worked to prove them wrong. During one bidding war, she set her sights on a plot of land. The price had been driven to astronomical heights, and no one else dared to bid higher. But Sophia stood up. "I'll raise." Everyone thought she was about to lose her shirt, but soon after, that land was designated a key development zone. She had proven her courage and her vision to everyone. She was a shining light that had illuminated Andrew's heart. Andrew vividly remembered that midsummer night, when he and Sophia had raised their glasses to the bright moon. Sophia had smiled. "We're definitely going to make it to the top." Andrew had replied, "Okay, we'll meet at the top." The clinking of their glasses, a crisp, clear sound, had made the young Andrew's heart skip a beat. Andrew's lips trembled. It felt as if he could hear that crisp sound again. Only this time, it was his heart shattering into a million pieces. Sophia didn't notice the change in him. Yes, as his brother-in-law, you shouldn't be so petty. Every time you've gone after Ethan, hasn't he forgiven you? You should learn from him. Besides, she continued, you say he stole from you, but do you have any proof? If this gets out, people will just say you're bullying a newcomer. She was right. He had no proof, and the company launch was just around the corner. They desperately needed a new game concept. He had no time to get bogged down in a fight with them. Andrew rubbed his fingers together. He had 75 days. He should be able to whip up a new design by then. He took a deep, shuddering breath. I can agree not to go after Ethan for this, but I have one condition. What condition? Just as Andrew was about to speak, Sophia's phone rang. She answered it, and Ethan's voice came through the speaker. Sophia, I twisted my ankle running on the track. Can you take me to the hospital? Sophia's expression changed instantly. She grabbed her car keys and headed for the door. Andrew quickly called after her. You need to keep November 10th free for me. November 10th was the anniversary of his parents' death. He had fulfilled every promise he'd ever made to Sophia, except for the one he'd made to the departed. Before he left, he wanted his parents to see the partner he had chosen. Fine. Before he could explain what it was for, she was already out the door. His phone buzzed. A message from Sophia. This won't happen again. And yet, on November 10th, the memorial wreaths his assistant had arranged were already at the cemetery. But Sophia never showed up. Sitting in the living room, Andrew fidgeted with his phone, watching the time tick by. If he didn't leave soon, the cemetery would close. He finally sent Sophia a message. When are you coming back? A red exclamation mark appeared next to the text. He'd been blocked. Andrew let out a cold laugh. She hadn't visited his parents' graves in years. What was he even hoping for? In the end, he went to the cemetery alone. On the solemn, quiet hillside, he stood silently before the two headstones. Mom, Dad, in 30 days, I'm bringing you home. He had been good to so many people in his life, but he was filled with guilt when it came to his parents. Andrew's parents had been murdered. That day, his mother had promised to take him to see a fireworks show after school. But when school let out, all he saw was their driver, covered in blood. At that age, Andrew already understood what death was. He burst into tears. The driver told him, cry now. When you get home, you can't cry anymore. When he saw his parents' bodies, he didn't shed a single tear. From that day on, he became withdrawn and distant. He had their graves moved here so they could see he was living a good life. But for years, Sophia always had something else to do on the anniversary of their deaths. Even this last time, she was absent. Andrew wanted to find a picture of Sophia on his phone to show his parents. Instead, he saw Ethan's latest Instagram post. Under a champagne tower, Ethan and Sophia were raising their glasses together, like a bride and groom at their wedding. The caption read, celebrating 24 with my favorite person. I'll love this day forever. Andrew buried his face in his hands. In front of his parents, he finally broke down and cried. He stayed at the cemetery all night, returning home the next day exhausted. The moment he walked in, he saw Sophia looking around the somewhat empty living room, unable to put her finger on what was missing. Of course, she wouldn't notice. She was barely ever home. The pair of couple dolls they had won at an arcade was gone. Andrew had shipped most of his things, but that was one of the few items he'd simply thrown away. He remembered winning them on their first date. Sophia had worn a mask and a hat, afraid one of her employees would see her playing such a childish game. But despite her words, when they won the dolls, she was so excited she planted a kiss on his cheek. Andrew felt a wave of disorientation. The woman in front of him looked exactly the same as the one from his memories, but she felt so different. What are you staring at? Did you go out all night and fry your brain? Sophia crossed her arms, looking down at him from a position of superiority. I had a busy night and called a lift to get home, but you were nowhere to be found. Is it fun messing with me? Andrew sneered. I asked you to keep November 10th free. I waited for you all day, and you never came home. And you're accusing me of messing with you? You never said you needed me during the day. What's wrong with me going to a business meeting? Have I ever said anything when you're not home during the day? Sophia stood up and walked toward him, a cold smile on her face. If you weren't so useless, would I have to go to networking dinners right after getting out of the hospital? So, celebrating Ethan's birthday counts as a business meeting now. Are you accusing me? I was blind to have married someone with such a rotten heart. When you're out late for business meetings, have I ever accused you of fooling around? And now you have the nerve to suspect me? Yeah, I am. I suspect your relationship with Ethan isn't normal. What about it? Then let's get a divorce. You can't stand Ethan. You can't stand me. Is there anyone you can stand? Fine. Divorce. Andrew calmly pulled out the divorce papers he'd prepared. Then sign it. Let's make this a clean break. Sophia stared at him, stunned. Then, she snatched the papers and slapped him hard across the face. Andrew, you really want to divorce me? Huh? Someone like you who doesn't know how to appreciate anything deserves to have nothing. You don't deserve to have a family. Your parents died because of you two. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. A sharp pain lanced through Andrew's heart. His parents' murder had always been his deepest wound. After they died, his grandmother passed away from illness. He sent his uncle to prison, and his other relatives cut ties with him over the inheritance. It felt as though all the goodness in the world had vanished from that moment on. Andrew didn't dare to expect anything from anyone again. He lived cautiously, burying his yearning for family deep inside. It wasn't until he met Sophia that he opened his heart, and now she was using that very wound to attack him. In that instant, Andrew's heart died completely. Sophia seemed to realize she'd gone too far. She cleared her throat. We're both adults. Is there any problem we can't solve? Why are you being so impulsive? I was just angry. You don't really want to divorce me, do you? Just then, a sleepy-looking Ethan emerged from the master bedroom, smiling as he greeted Sophia. Morning, Soph. You're up so early. Was I not enough of a workout for you last night? Sophia rushed to explain. Don't get the wrong idea. Ethan got drunk last night, and I couldn't be bothered to take him home, so I let him crash here. The cold smile on Andrew's face slowly faded as his eyes met Ethan's. The younger man flinched like he'd seen a wolf, scurrying to hide behind Sophia. Sophia, did I cause trouble for you? Sophia, did I cause trouble for you? What are you thinking? You're my brother. Forget staying here. I should buy you a house. Sophia patted Ethan's hand soothingly, completely ignoring her husband. Andrew said flatly, when you're done with your little sleepover, make sure you throw out anything he used. I'm a bit of a germaphobe. The thought of other people touching my things disgusts me. Andrew, are you fucking insane? What has Ethan ever done to you that you have to target him like this? Target him? The first time Sophia accused him of targeting Ethan was when he found Ethan stealing her underwear. But Sophia had insisted he was just twisting a young man's innocent longing for his sister with his own dirty mind. The second time was when he caught Ethan peeking at Sophia while she showered. Again, Sophia had said, you just can't stand him. Isn't it normal for a kid to be curious? He had only reminded her that this kid was 23 years old. Was that targeting him? Ethan peeked out from behind Sophia. Andrew, please don't fight with Sophia. I'll leave. I'm grateful enough that you two took me in, an orphan. It's only right that I face some hardship now. I'll go right now. The one who should be leaving is him, not you. Sophia grabbed Ethan's arm. A sudden phone call interrupted her. She answered it and prepared to leave, but not before warning Andrew. Our problems have nothing to do with Ethan. Don't you dare bully him while I'm gone. Just looking at Ethan made Andrew sick. He was about to retreat to his office when he heard Ethan's voice behind him. What's the point of working so hard, man? In the end, you can't hold on to your work, your wife, or your kid. Ethan was smiling triumphantly, his ambition naked on his face. You think Sophia will get pregnant again? If she does, I'll definitely make sure she keeps it. I even asked her, if you've ever reached a place as deep as... Andrew's fist connected with Ethan's face. The two were instantly brawling, tumbling from the living room into the kitchen. Just as Ethan grabbed a knife, the front door opened. Ethan shot Andrew a grin, slashed his own arm with a blade, and dropped the knife. Andrew, I swear I'll never come back. Just let me go. Sophia burst in and ran straight to Ethan. Andrew, you used a knife? How could you be so vicious? You'd attack a kid over something so small. Do you want me to call the police? Then call them. Andrew shot back. Let's see whose fault it really is. Fine. Maybe you'll calm down after you've been arrested. Ethan quickly stopped her. Sophia, it's nothing. Andrew doesn't like me. I'll just come around less often. We're family. There's no need for this. Sophia cradled Ethan in her arms, her voice dripping with pity. Look how mature Ethan is. If you were half as understanding as him, you wouldn't be such a pathetic mess. Now get on your knees and apologize to Ethan. Then drive him to the hospital. Andrew's fists tightened, his nails digging into his palms. The one who should be kneeling and apologizing is your little brother. You're not calling the police? Fine, I will. Andrew had just picked up his phone when Sophia snatched it and smashed it with a vase. Shards of ceramic flew, peppering Andrew with a dozen small cuts. Sophia's eyes were bloodshot. What is wrong with you? You just try to cause a scene so Ethan can't get to the hospital, aren't you? I give you an out and you won't take it. You want to keep fighting? You want a divorce? Fine, let's get a divorce. The shrill words echoed in Andrew's head. He gritted his teeth in agony, not even sure where all the cuts were. He didn't answer Sophia. He just tried to stand up and get to a hospital himself. What are you faking it? Sophia grabbed a hot water kettle and hurled it at him. Andrew, already unsteady, stumbled and collapsed to the floor. Countless tiny glass shards from the broken vase suddenly drove deeper into his flesh, a pain 100 times worse than the scalding water that now soaked him. Andrew curled up on the floor, every movement sending waves of agony through him as the glass shifted in his muscles. Sophia spat a single word at him, pathetic, and walked right past him with Ethan on their way to the hospital. As they left, Ethan deliberately kicked him. A long time passed before Andrew could pull himself out of the haze of pain. His phone was in pieces. He could only drag his battered body out the door. He made it to the garage, only to find that their only car was gone. The world spun, and Andrew blacked out. When he woke up, the sharp, antiseptic smell of a hospital filled his nose. The slightest movement sent sharp pains through the cuts all over his body. "Mr. Carter, you're awake." It was his assistant. She had been trying to reach him to sign some documents, and when she couldn't get through, she had driven to his house. She found him passed out on the garage floor and rushed him to the hospital. Andrew, who had narrowly escaped death, was still running a fever. He managed a weak "thank you" and asked her to handle the discharge paperwork. The Seattle office launch was 30 days away, but he couldn't wait. He wanted to leave now, but he had entered the Cyberplate Game Design Expo to build hype for the Seattle branch, and the event was in 20 days. He had to wait until after the competition to leave. Before that, he needed to finalize the divorce. He pushed through the pain and went home. He waited until midnight when Sophia walked in, her face flushed and her mood obviously excellent. Andrew's voice was ice cold as he handed her a fresh set of divorce papers. "Sign it." Sophia tore the documents to shreds. "Honey, we've been together for so many years. Don't let a little argument ruin everything. How about this? You apologize to Ethan, and we'll put this all behind us. You want a baby, right? As long as you apologize, I'll give you one." Sophia reached out to wrap her arms around his neck, but Andrew sidestepped her effortlessly. His obsession with having a child stemmed from a deep-seated loneliness, a lack of family. But that obsession had been ground to dust by Sophia's constant betrayals. Besides, whose child would she be carrying next? His or Ethan's? Andrew let out a cold laugh. "I don't need a child, and I don't need you. Sign the papers as soon as possible, and we can go our separate ways." "Andrew, you promised you'd be good to me for the rest of my life. And now you're telling me you don't want me? You want to divorce me? Say something." Andrew, emotionally drained by her shouting, didn't want to answer. He avoided her gaze. Just then, his phone vibrated. He glanced at it, and in that split second, Sophia saw. She snatched the phone from his hand. Seeing the message on the screen, she sneered. "A competition. It's always a competition. You're so distracted by your stupid games, you can't even focus on an argument. Is there anything in your life besides competitions? You target Ethan all the time because you think I'm too good to him. But he can win a major award and still find time to be with me. Why can't you? That's because Ethan's winning entry was mine, and have I not been there for you? You're afraid of being alone, so I brought my work home every single night. I always waited until you were asleep before I started my own overtime. When you were out all night with Ethan, did you ever once think about whether I was afraid of being alone? So this is still about Ethan, isn't it? Because I protect him, you're sick of me. Fine, it's all my fault. I'll leave, and you'd better have the guts to never see me again. Even if I die out there, it'll have nothing to do with you." Sophia slammed the door and left. Usually, after a fight like this, Andrew would call within 3 hours, apologizing and begging her to come back. But this time, she stayed away for 20 days and still hadn't heard a word from him. A sense of panic began to set in. Something was wrong. Ethan sidled up to her, his face long. "Sophia, I don't get it. I've sent my resume to so many companies, but no one's given me an offer. I even won the gold medal. Do you think Andrew blacklisted me in the industry?" Sophia's anger flared into a cold smile. So that was his game. He was trying to control Ethan to make her crawl back to him. In his dreams, Andrew had no intention of making Sophia bow her head. She was too proud for that. She'd never backed down in her life. How could he expect her to admit she was wrong? As for Ethan, so what if he won a gold medal with a stolen project? His college design program was second-rate at best. He'd spent most of his university years partying with Sophia and failing his classes. The award might look good on his resume, but he'd fall apart in any real interview. For 20 days, Andrew buried himself in his work, finally finishing a new design. The branch office would be operational in 10 days. After tomorrow's competition, he was gone. He closed his laptop and looked around the living room. Everything that belonged to him was either thrown out or shipped away. But he wanted to erase every last trace of his life with Sophia. He He plugged a flash drive into his laptop. For a moment, he saw a folder containing all their old photos and videos. Most were from when they were just starting their businesses. They often skipped meals, and Sophia had taken a picture of him once, saying he'd lost so much weight that she wanted to capture him at his thinnest. But back then, they were both healthier and every meal tasted delicious. It was only in recent years, after the constant fighting, that their health had started to fail. After deleting every photo and video, he slept more soundly than he had in years. He woke up, dressed sharply, and headed to the Cyberplay Game Design Expo. As the owner of a well-known gaming company, his new work would be scrutinized by every reporter and media outlet present. The moment he entered, all eyes turned to him. Then, the reporters swarmed. The designs for the competition had already been unveiled, but he hadn't expected this kind of frenzy. "Mr. Carter, do you have any explanation for your company's plagiarism of newcomer Ethan's design?" "Mr. Carter, it's rumored this new design is also your work. Are you admitting to plagiarism?" Andrew froze. A torrent of information flooded his brain. Plagiarizing Ethan? But he had just finished the design last night. How is this possible? The media's questions kept coming. Andrew, who had never been good in social situations, was completely overwhelmed. A staff member finally rescued him from the crowd and led him to a quiet lounge. Even after sitting for a long time, he couldn't process what was happening. His assistant came in and handed him her phone, playing a video. In the clip, surrounded by reporters, Ethan stood with red-rimmed eyes. "Thank you all for reporting the truth. As a newcomer, it's hard for me to get a foothold in this industry. But I hope you won't attack Mr. Carter's company. Andrew has always been like an older brother to me. He's taken such good care of me all these years. There must be some misunderstanding. His new branch office is opening in Seattle in 10 days. Please give him your full support. ####. Andrew's face was ashen, his breathing growing rapid and shallow. Ethan had just thrown him and his company to the wolves. The media was now digging into Andrew's past, suggesting that maybe his earlier works had also been stolen from Ethan. News came from the new office. Extremists had smashed the front doors of the building. They needed someone to issue a statement, a clarification, immediately. The only person Andrew could think of was Sophia. But then he remembered her last words to him. This won't happen again, and the thought was laughable. Early in her career, when Sophia had first taken over Miller Corp., a competitor had framed her in a plagiarism scandal. Andrew had worked around the clock, pulling strings and gathering evidence to prove her innocence, saving her from a media firestorm. Sophia, terrified by the ordeal, had tearfully insisted on installing security cameras in his office, with her personally storing the footage. If anyone ever falsely accused him, she'd said she would throw the recordings in their face. Andrew never imagined that the footage in Sophia's hands, meant to be a shield, would become the very weapon used to trap him in a vortex of plagiarism accusations. He couldn't understand how Sophia could hate him this much. Before he could go and confront her, Sophia came to him. She stood with her arms crossed, in her usual position of power. "I've been gone for days. Why didn't you come find me? Weren't you worried something might have happened to me?" Andrew's cold gaze fixed on her. "You stole my work. Don't you have anything to say about that? Explain what? It was just a design. Think of it as a graduation present for Ethan, and a gift from you to say you're sorry. Let's just move on. Don't make a scene. One design covers 3 gifts. You're the one getting a good deal here. This award is his ticket to a career." Sophia reached for him, but Andrew slapped her hand away. "Why should I apologize to him? If he wants a ticket to a career, it better be his own damn ticket. What kind of talent is there in stealing my work? Why are you overreacting like this?" Sophia's face twisted in disgust. "Your company makes plenty of money every month. At most, this costs you, what, $3 million? Can you put a price on me repaying a debt of gratitude? If you want to repay a debt, you do it. What does that have to do with me?" The words flew out of Andrew's mouth. The whole thing was absurd. Was Sophia really repaying a debt? She had never mistreated Grace's memory. Grace's death had nothing to do with her. To give Ethan a family, she had destroyed her own. Whether it was an extreme form of gratitude or just an excuse for her affair, she knew the truth. "Andrew, are you in such a hurry to draw a line between us? Fine. It's just $3 million, right? I'll give you the villa on the outskirts of the city. Draw up a contract. I'll transfer it to you tomorrow." Even now, she thought this was about money. Andrew had a corporate crisis to manage. He had no time to argue with her. He slammed the door and left. His assistant was waiting for him outside. "Mr. Carter, I've managed to stabilize all our external partnerships for now." Andrew nodded, rubbing his temples wearily. Back at the office, he quickly delegated the final tasks. creating a long-term plan to gradually phase out the Chicago branch's operations. By the time he finished, it was late at night. He checked his phone. His flight left in 5 hours. Just as he was about to turn it off, a new message from Ethan popped up. "Too bad you're not here, man." Along with the message was a photo. Sophia, surrounded by a group of people, at a party celebrating his win. "Sophia got me a gift. I got one for you too. Check my Instagram." Andrew opened the app. There it was, a picture of Sophia in black lingerie, straddling Ethan. The caption, "Finally meeting at the summit with my favorite person." Andrew's knuckles turned white as he gripped his phone. Sophia had personally shattered the promise they made to meet at the top, only to meet at the top with another man. Andrew felt nothing anymore. No anger, no pain. Just a profound sense of ridicule for the man he had been for all these years. He turned off his phone, left the office, and went home to grab his passport. When he opened the door to his house, he was met with a sordid scene. Sophia scrambled off Ethan's lap, her silk robe hanging open. Her underwear was tossed on a coffee table, the hem of her nightgown pushed up to her waist. "Honey, listen to me, nothing happened. I had just gotten out of the shower, and Ethan was just helping me get my clothes," Sophia explained frantically. Andrew wasn't blind. He could see the fresh hickeys on her neck. "Sophia, why are you so scared of him?" Ethan stood up, pulling Sophia behind him protectively. They looked like a devoted couple, and Andrew was the one tearing them apart. He pulled out the divorce papers and handed them to Sophia, who was still desperately trying to explain. Before Andrew could even say what it was, she quickly grabbed a pen and signed. Only after she was done did she ask, "Is this for the villa? Are there any other properties you want?" "Soph, why are you giving him a house? He's a useless piece of trash. Don't be afraid of him. I'll take you away." Ethan forcibly pulled Sophia out of the house. She was still calling back, "I'll explain when I get back." Andrew looked around the empty house. He would never have to wait for Sophia to come back again. He didn't stay a moment longer. He took a car straight to the airport. At 5 in the morning, as the plane circled over the city, Andrew closed his eyes. "Sophia, I hope we never meet again. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag." After landing in Seattle, Andrew first went to the house his parents had bought for him years ago. His new home was already renovated, but the smell of formaldehyde still lingered. He decided to wait until spring to move in. Opening the door, he was hit by a wave of both familiarity and strangeness. This was supposed to be their marital home. After they got married, he hired someone to decorate it, thinking he and Sophia might visit Seattle and have a place to stay. But in all their years of marriage, Sophia had never once come to Seattle with him. She had told him that when she was a child, her family had once forgotten her on a rocky beach. Now, she said, not only did the sound of waves scare her, but even visiting a coastal city filled her with dread. Sophia had always felt neglected by her family, and hearing her story, Andrew had been filled with sympathy. He never mentioned coming back to Seattle again. Instead, he silently vowed to give Sophia so much love that she would never again have to long for a sense of security. And he had. He had taken care of her every need. But in the end, they had still fallen apart. He took down the wedding photo he'd had someone hang in the living room and walked through each room, making sure there were no traces of Sophia left. With every room he entered, the sense of familiarity grew stronger. The layout of the house was identical to his childhood home. The floor-to-ceiling windows in the living room were his mother's preference, designed exactly to her wishes. The small study connected to the master suite was his father's habit. He used to say that having an office in the bedroom meant he could work late and still be with his wife. When his parents were alive, they often imagined him having a beautiful family of his own one day. He hadn't managed that. In the past, whenever he visited their graves, he wondered if they would be disappointed in him. But standing here, in a house filled with their presence, Andrew felt a profound sense of peace. They wouldn't blame him. Andrew lay down on the bed in the master bedroom. The morning sun streamed through the window, warming his skin. He closed his eyes, feeling the deep security of a child who has finally found a safe place to rest. He slept deeply. When he woke up, he felt a strength he hadn't felt in years, as if he were 18 again. Today was the company's first day of operation. There was a lot to do. He quickly got up and left. As he arrived at the office building, a giant party popper exploded, showering him in colorful confetti. "Welcome, Mr. Carter." The employees were lined up inside, every one of them beaming with energy. A smile spread across his face. It felt like years since he had been this happy. So happy, in fact, that he felt like he was forgetting something. It wasn't until he saw a young couple teasing each other outside the building that he remembered. Sophia had signed the divorce papers and then gone silent. It seemed this marriage had finally reached its end in her eyes, too. That was for the best. Once the divorce was legally finalized, They would go their separate ways, with no connection left between them. Sophia sat on the couch in a hotel room, an unshakable anxiety churning in her stomach. No matter how much they had fought before, it had never reached a point like this. Even when he was just suspicious, Andrew would question her relentlessly. But this time, he had caught them red-handed, and yet he had been so calm. So calm, it made her feel like he didn't care about her anymore. The thought made Sophia shake her head violently. How could Andrew not care about her? She was just panicking. She must have misread his reaction. She clutched her phone, checking again and again to make sure she hadn't blocked his number. Why hadn't he called? Why hadn't he even sent a single text? Sophia, what are you thinking about? Ethan asked, noticing her distraction. Before she could answer, his expression soured. You're not thinking about Andrew, are you? Sophia, you spoil him too much. He's the one who came home late, but he's the one who gets to be suspicious of you and me. Sophia glanced at Ethan guiltily. Suspicious? Shouldn't Andrew be suspicious? She didn't answer him. The sense of dread in her heart grew stronger. Hashtag. Sophia downed 5 glasses of wine, her cheeks already flushed. But the silence from Andrew was making her increasingly agitated. Ethan moved closer, his warm breath tickling her neck as his hand slid slowly toward her waist. I get angry when you're not paying attention to me, you know. Sophia irritably pushed him away. Ethan, misreading the situation, suddenly pounced on her. So what do you want to play tonight, Sophia? Crack. The sharp sound of a slap echoed through the room. Ethan stared at her in shock. Sophia. Ethan, are you insane? Sophia, what did I do wrong? Sophia's mind was in turmoil. She felt that Ethan had crossed the line, but the moment she had that thought, she felt a flicker of confusion. They had crossed lines before, hadn't they? What was wrong with her now? She poured herself another glass of wine and drank it down, breathing heavily. Since you won the award, you should focus on finding a good job. Because of my friendship with your sister, it was my duty to look after you. But you've graduated now. You have to make your own way in the world. Whether you succeed or not is up to you. I'm leaving, Sophia said. She grabbed her purse and fled the room. Left behind, Ethan was stunned into silence. He wanted to say more, but she was already gone. The moment the door clicked shut, Ethan's soft, teary-eyed expression vanished. He cursed under his breath and hurled his wine glass against the wall, shattering it. He called a friend, who picked up immediately. She's acting weird today. Ethan spat, his voice laced with frustration. Suddenly she's out of control, trying to draw a line between us. I didn't even do anything. In the past, when I slept with her, I'd take pictures and send them to him. Today, when he caught us, we hadn't even started. Was it really too much? Fine. I didn't expect that guy to have so much self-control. He still hasn't divorced her. Okay, I'll back off for now. I can't push her too hard and lose this meal ticket, but I need to figure something out. I need them to get divorced, and soon. After leaving the hotel, the cold wind hit Sophia's face, a sobering slap. Her heart pounded with anxiety. She quickly hailed a cab and went home. It was after midnight when she arrived. A wave of cold air hit her as she walked in. The living room felt empty. Lately, she often had the feeling that something was missing from the house, but she could never put her finger on what it was. Andrew wasn't home. She sat on the couch and slowly looked around. That's when she saw it. The pair of couple dolls they had won at the arcade was gone. A chill ran down her spine. After they won those dolls, Andrew had acted like a little kid, insisting they be placed in the most prominent spot in the living room, positioned so they were always kissing. Whenever he made her angry, the male doll would be found kneeling in front of the female one. The first time she saw it, she had almost laughed. When she turned around, Andrew was standing behind her with a bouquet of flowers, whispering, "Honey, don't be mad." The second time, she had even picked up the female doll and made it kick the male one. She immediately heard Andrew yelp from behind her. "Honey, you kicked too hard." Sophia suddenly realized that was a long, long time ago. She let go of where the dolls used to be and sank onto the couch, assuming Andrew had just stormed out in a fit of pique. Sophia sat in the living room all night. In the morning, when the housekeeper came to cook, she asked what Sophia wanted to eat. She blinked, coming back to her senses, and realized Andrew still wasn't back. She tried calling him, only to discover he had blocked her number. Rage surged through Sophia. He could be angry, fine, but to block her? Did he think blocking her would solve anything? What if something happened and she needed to contact him? The more she thought, the angrier she got. She ignored the housekeeper's question and asked instead, "Did Andrew say what he wanted to eat today?" The housekeeper looked at her, surprised. "Ms. Miller, Mr. Carter said you two are getting a divorce. He said he's not coming back. Hashtag. Sophia froze. Divorce? What divorce? She hadn't even signed any papers. How could Andrew file for divorce by himself? No matter how angry he was, he couldn't keep using divorce as a joke. Could he? And to tell the housekeeper about it? Didn't he know how much internal turmoil rumors of a split would cause for their two companies? She must have been too nice to him lately, letting him get a big head. The more Sophia stewed, the angrier she became. When he came back, she was going to give him a piece of her mind. I'm not eating anything, she snapped, storming into the bedroom to sulk. But she tossed and turned, unable to sleep, her mind churning with fury she wanted to unleash on Andrew. She tried calling him from another phone, only to find that number was blocked too. Growing more and more agitated, Sophia got up, intending to trash Andrew's office in a fit of rage. But when she opened the door, she stopped dead in her tracks. Andrew's office, usually cluttered with books and papers, was now so clean it was sterile. All that remained was a single laptop on the desk. It suddenly hit her. She finally understood the emptiness of the living room. All of Andrew's things were gone. He never had much to begin with, and she was rarely home to pay attention to his belongings, so their absence was hard to notice. But now that she had, a sharp pang of fear shot through her. She frantically searched the house. His clothes in the closet, his toiletries in the bathroom, all gone. Her search ended back in the office. She opened the lone laptop. It was wiped clean. Even a folder where they kept all their old photos was gone. Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs. She scrambled through the computer's files, finally finding the folder. With a trembling hand, she clicked it open, only to see that it was empty. A strained, difficult smile fell from her lips. Andrew had vanished so completely it was as if he had never been in her life at all. Sophia was in a full-blown panic. She rushed to Andrew's company building. The area outside was quieter than usual, and even the receptionist at the front desk was new. The new receptionist didn't recognize her and blocked her from entering. "Ma'am, do you have an appointment?" Impatient, Sophia's tone was sharp. "I'm your CEO's wife. Didn't anyone tell you that during your training?" "I'm sorry, ma'am, but our training specifically states that no strangers are allowed inside without an appointment. Do you want to be fired tomorrow?" "Ma'am, I'm just doing my job. Please don't make this difficult for me." Sophia gritted her teeth. "Fine. Call your CEO. Tell him to come down and get me." When the receptionist didn't move, Sophia's anger flared. Before she could curse her out, the receptionist asked, "Are you really Mr. Carter's wife? What is that supposed to mean?" Sophia's hateful gaze bore into the young woman. Andrew could be angry, fine, but he wouldn't let his employees treat her like this, would he? Every past receptionist had been trained to recognize her. This had to be Andrew, deliberately trying to humiliate her. If you were really Mr. Carter's wife, how could you not know that he's already moved to the Seattle office? Sophia was dumbfounded, her anger deflating slightly. The Seattle office? She vaguely remembered Andrew saying he was going to open a branch office in Seattle. It was around the time he started preparing for it that he became consumed with work, neglecting her. Their relationship had deteriorated, and she had gradually grown closer to Ethan. It felt like no time had passed since he'd first mentioned it. His new company was already open, and he hadn't even told her about something so important. ####. Sophia couldn't understand why Andrew was throwing such a massive tantrum, running off to Seattle without a word. For now, even if she wanted to confront him, she had to get to Seattle first. She was about to ask her assistant to book a flight when a call came in from her marketing director. "Ms. Miller, we have a bit of a problem over here." Sophia's frustration mounted, her brow furrowing deeply. "There's a problem, so you call me? Can't you handle it yourselves? Am I paying you idiots for nothing?" The person on the other end hesitated. Sophia took a deep breath and continued her tirade. "How was it that you could handle things before, but not now? I think you people don't want to work here anymore." "Ms. Miller, in the past, Mr. Carter helped us handle these things." "Andrew, what do you mean? I never knew about this." The marketing director replied, trying to sound cheerful. "Mr. Carter said there was no need to bother you with every little problem. He was afraid of putting too much pressure on you." Though he didn't spell it out, she knew what he meant. Andrew must have told them that she had a strong personality, that she strived for perfection in everything. Even a small problem would feel like a huge weight on her shoulders. So, whenever an issue arose, they went to Andrew first. Over the past few years, how many problems had Andrew quietly solved for her and her company? A hollow feeling opened in Sophia's chest, her nose tingling with a sudden urge to cry. She thought back to all the problems that had seemed to resolve themselves, as if by magic. Last year, just before a new product launch, the marketing department was flooded with complaints about the previous batch. She was on vacation in Hawaii at the time and had just rushed to the airport to fly back when the PR department announced the issue had been resolved almost perfectly. The year before that, right before the holidays, a competitor launched a vicious smear campaign and sales plummeted. The marketing department, abandoning its usual conservative approach, launched a live streaming campaign with product testing, turning the tide completely. Before, she had just thought her marketing director was competent and humble. She had never once considered Andrew's involvement. Ms. Miller, we haven't been able to reach Mr. Carter. Is he sick? Sophia didn't answer. Her heart felt like a tangled knot of rope. She was filled with a confusing mix of gratitude and resentment. Even if Andrew was throwing a fit, he couldn't be this irresponsible, could he? Suddenly dumping the company on her. Was this his idea of punishment? Once she dealt with this mess, she would make him apologize to her personally. Sophia felt a wave of self-pity, her eyes welling up. To avoid letting the new receptionist see her in such a state, she hurried into her car before telling the marketing director, "Give me some proposals now. I want to see them on my desk the moment I get to the office." Before the car could even pull away, she received a message from Ethan. He wanted to look at some of Andrew's old design work for reference. Busy with the crisis at her company, she told him to go to the house and find it himself. After a full afternoon of yelling at the marketing department, they finally came up with a solution. Sophia was exhausted. The driver was navigating traffic while she nearly fell asleep in the back seat. But the moment she walked through her front door, all her drowsiness vanished. The empty house felt cold and damp. Sophia curled up in the chair in Andrew's office, her resentment toward his heartlessness growing with each passing moment. How could he abandon her at such a critical time? The laptop screen suddenly flickered to life. She saw that Ethan's WhatsApp was still logged in. He must have forgotten to log out after using it. Sophia had no interest in snooping through Ethan's chats and was about to log him out when a new message notification popped up. Ethan, Andrew has insane self-control. I told him his face, I slept with his wife, and he just punched me. His wife ended up screaming at him for it, and they're still not divorced. Sophia froze, her hand hovering over the mouse. Messages in the chat window kept appearing, one after another. Last time Andrew had alcohol poisoning, Sophia almost went to him. But then I said I had a headache, and she came to take care of me instead. LOL. I asked Andrew if he wanted me to bring his wife over to pity him, and he got so pissed he blocked me. All I have to do is cry a little, and Andrew's entire company will be handed over to me. Because of that Cyberplay award mess, several of his projects fell through. I heard he spent years of his life on this new branch office. The thought of him losing sleep over it makes me laugh. That idiot. Sophia really screwed him over. I was worried Andrew was planning some big move to win Sophia back. But the guy just up and left. What the hell was I so worried about? I will lock down this rich woman within a month. There's no way I'm slaving away for a living. Miller Corp will be mine. I should have gotten her pregnant sooner. Last time I poked a hole in the condom, not sure if it took. If not, I'll just try a few more times. Once she has my baby, she'll have to give me Miller Corp, right? Just kidding. She's dying to have my baby. ####. Sophia stared at the screen in disbelief. She remembered the time Andrew had alcohol poisoning. After getting his call, she had received another one from Ethan, complaining of a headache. She had been about to go see Andrew, but then Ethan added, "Yesterday, I asked Andrew for help with my coursework, and he just yelled at me, said I was stupid and deserved to fail. I stayed up all night studying, and now my head feels like it's going to explode." In that moment, she had instantly concluded that Andrew was lying, just trying to compete with Ethan for her attention. After all, he rarely drank. How could he have given himself alcohol poisoning? So she had curtly refused Andrew and taken Ethan to the hospital instead. The doctor had simply told Ethan to go home and rest. Then Ethan had started crying, saying he couldn't sleep, that he felt awful thinking about what Andrew had said. Seething, she had called Andrew and, without letting him get a word in, had screamed at him. Thinking back to that scene, Sophia's hand trembled as she slammed it on the desk. But why hadn't Andrew told her the truth afterward? She couldn't understand. She kept scrolling, reading what Ethan and his friend said about the time Andrew had supposedly stabbed him with a knife. As the messages scrolled by, Sophia's shock grew. It was as if she had never known Ethan at all. She quickly pulled up the security camera footage from that day. On the screen, the moment she left the house, Ethan's entire demeanor changed. He looked at Andrew with a provocative sneer she had never seen before, a look she couldn't believe belonged to the meek, timid Ethan she knew. Andrew didn't engage, but then Ethan uttered that line. I even asked her, if you've ever reached a place as deep as. That was a lie. Ethan had never asked her that. But after that lie, the two started fighting. Suddenly, Ethan smiled, cut himself with a knife, and then she walked into the frame, blindly accusing Andrew. Sophia was so horrified she couldn't believe the person on the screen was her. She sat at the computer for 3 hours, and finally, she understood why Andrew had stopped telling her the truth. He had told her. After the first time Ethan had insisted on attending a gala with her, Andrew had said, "There are already rumors about our marriage. Even if you want to support him, you need to clarify your relationship." But Ethan had immediately started crying, saying Andrew just looked down on him, and then he brought up Grace. "If my sister were here, she would have given me a proper position by her side." A surge of anger rose in Sophia. She had thrown her arm around Ethan and declared, "You're my god brother. What's wrong with that status that you can't attend a gala with me?" Andrew hadn't given up. "Then just tell people he's your god brother." "Sophia," Ethan had whispered, his eyes teary, "if you say I'm just your god brother, people will think I'm just a pretty face." He added, "Andrew grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. He doesn't know what it's like to be looked down upon." At that, she had shielded Ethan behind her. "The people by my side are not for them to gossip about. As his brother-in-law, how can you stoop to their level and gossip? Can't you be more generous?" That day, she and Andrew had their first major fight. She hadn't even understood why he was making such a big deal out of something so small. Later, Ethan had wanted to see the world, and told her, "Sophia, Andrew is so busy. We can go on a trip, and when we get back, you can go out with him." She thought Ethan had a point, so she postponed her 6th wedding anniversary trip with Andrew. Andrew had shown his displeasure again, but it was much milder than before. After that, things like this happened frequently. Andrew would get upset, but he stopped explaining why. Eventually, he stopped getting upset at all. A sharp pain twisted in Sophia's heart. Andrew's indifference hadn't come out of nowhere. But how had she never noticed any of this before? Sophia closed her eyes and took a deep, shuddering breath. She could no longer be close to someone as calculating as Ethan. As for Andrew, when she saw him, she would swallow her pride for once. She would be soft. Given how much Andrew loved her, as long as she didn't mention divorce, they could slowly get back to how they were. The thought gave her a small measure of comfort. She was about to go to sleep when her phone rang. It was Ethan. After a moment's hesitation, she answered. His voice was bubbling with excitement. "Sophia, a company loved my proposal. They've offered me a high-paying job. Let's celebrate tomorrow night." Sophia sneered internally. She had to admit Ethan's acting was superb. "Sophia, why aren't you saying anything? Are you too tired?" "No, let's celebrate tomorrow night," Sophia said, her voice even. "For such a happy occasion, the more the merrier." "Sophia, you're too good to me, but I don't really have any friends to invite. I don't know any of the big names in the game design industry." "I do. I said I'd help you build your career, and I meant it. You invite your new bosses. I'll invite the industry celebrities. And if you feel uncomfortable, you can invite some of your own friends. The more, the better." "Okay." Ethan couldn't hide his excitement. After hanging up, Sophia sent a message to her assistant. "Prepare a file for me. ####." Because of the plagiarism scandal, the Seattle office's launch hadn't been smooth. Fortunately, after Andrew returned, he partnered with an old elementary school classmate, Dave Chun, on a new game. Dave's family ran a massive influencer marketing agency. This was their first venture into online gaming. Andrew was in charge of development, and Dave was in charge of generating hype. Tomorrow was the official launch. If this took off, the stain of the plagiarism incident would be insignificant. The project proposal lay openly on his desk. This time, there was no chance of it being stolen. He closed his laptop just as Dave walked in from outside. They had agreed to stay up all night together to watch the sales numbers after the game went live at midnight. Before he could go out to greet Dave, a message popped up on his phone from a business partner in Chicago. "Everyone in the gaming industry is going to be at the welcome dinner for Ethan, the next big thing, tonight. Did you get an invite?" This particular partner always enjoyed twisting the knife when Andrew was down. The reminder was certainly not well-intentioned. Andrew didn't reply. He didn't need to. He knew it was Sophia who had arranged everything for Ethan. She doted on him so much. Of course she would pave the way for his career. Andrew turned off his phone with a cold smile, just as Dave pushed the door open. "What are you smiling about?" "Nothing. You nervous?" Dave shook his head. "When I saw the concept video, I was blown away. Holy shit, a design this good is unprecedented. What do I have to be nervous about?" Dave walked over and clapped Andrew on the shoulder. "I knew that whole thing was a setup. That kid, Ethan whatever, a piece of trash who steals other people's work. He should just disappear. He can steal once, but he can't steal forever. This time, let's make him die of envy." Seeing Andrew's silence, Dave figured it was a sore subject and changed topics. "You've been back for a while now. How come I haven't seen your wife? After graduation, I kept trying to get you to come back and start business here, but you wouldn't budge for her. How come you're willing to come back alone now? We got divorced, Andrew said. Dave froze. He had been trying to switch to a happier topic, but he had just stuck a knife right in his friend's heart. Realizing his mistake, Dave laughed awkwardly. Hey, don't be sad, man. There are plenty of good women out there. If you ask me, you were gone for years and never came back. If she really cared about you, she would have come back with you at least once. He clapped Andrew on the shoulder again. Hearing Sophia's name again, Andrew didn't feel sad. Instead, he felt a sense of relief. After years of marriage, he could say with a clear conscience that he had never wronged her. If they didn't make it to the end, it was just a matter of fate. Nothing to mourn. He smiled easily. It's all in the past. Right now, I just want to focus on the company. Good to hear you've moved on. But speaking of the company, did you know that the guy you were fighting with over the family business is probably getting out soon? Andrew's breath caught in his throat. After a long moment, he said, Good. I was young then. There are some scores that were never settled. It's time for a reckoning. He looked up, his dark eyes gazing into the night, as if he could see that bloody night all over again. He didn't owe anyone anything in this life, but what others owed him, he would collect. At the stroke of midnight, the game went on sale. He and Dave were still in the office, about to open the sales dashboard, when they heard a gasp from outside. The assistant ran in, breathless. Mr. Carter, Mr. Chun, the sales numbers are exploding. It's 10 times higher than we projected. Andrew and Dave stared at each other, a mix of surprise and disbelief. The original sales projection was already an optimistic estimate. How could it have suddenly surged tenfold? As businessmen, they wouldn't let a moment of success cloud their judgment. They needed to find the reason behind it. Have you found out why? Mr. Carter, the hashtag about our company's plagiarism scandal, is trending on Twitter. The feed is full of evidence that Ethan plagiarized you. Dave nodded. That must be related. But who released the evidence? Andrew didn't speak, but he knew. There was only one person who had that evidence. After releasing the evidence of Ethan's plagiarism, Sophia walked into the private dining room. It was already full. Miller Corp was a long-standing, powerful enterprise in Chicago. And through Andrew's involvement in the gaming industry, she and Andrew had inevitably built connections with his peers. So, nearly every major player in the Chicago gaming scene was present. The moment she entered, Ethan stood up with a smile, walking over to her with a shy expression, waiting for her to introduce him to the esteemed guests. But Sophia didn't even look at him. Ethan was momentarily taken aback, but he quickly plastered a smile back on his face and sat down next to her. Sophia was already greeting the crowd. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to give me face tonight. She raised her glass with a smile, and everyone in the room stood to raise theirs in return. Ms. Miller is treating who wouldn't give face. Yes, our industries rarely intersect. It's a rare pleasure to dine with Ms. Miller. Sophia nodded slightly. Mr. Lee, you're being too formal. I was late, so I'll punish myself with a drink. She was about to down the glass, but the smell of the alcohol made her stomach churn. She forced it down anyway. In the past, my husband often dined with all of you. I'm grateful that you've all graced me with your presence tonight. I owe this to his good name as well. After Sophia spoke, the expressions on everyone's faces shifted. They exchanged glances. Everyone in the gaming world knew that Ethan and Andrew did not get along. Not long ago, Andrew had been embroiled in a plagiarism scandal because of Ethan. When they had arrived tonight, Ethan had been busy greeting them, and his classmates had been talking nonstop about how well Sophia was taking care of him. They had naturally assumed that tonight's dinner was arranged by Sophia for Ethan's sake. So why was she opening with a toast to Andrew? Many eyes fell on Ethan. The forced smile on his face slowly vanished. He sat rigidly in his chair, his fists clenched tightly. A moment later, he collected himself and leaned close to Sophia's ear, whispering, Sophia, why are you bringing up Andrew? The plagiarism thing hasn't blown over yet. If you talk like this, they won't help me. Sophia looked at him with a puzzled expression and said loudly, When did I ever ask them to help you? Ethan was completely stunned. Sophia continued, Ethan, a person's success is limited by their ability. My Andrew has made significant achievements in the game design industry. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to start his own company. But for all these years, no one has been propping him up. You're young and you don't know, but everyone here has watched him showcase his talent over the years. Isn't that right, everyone? When Sophia finished, no one in the room responded directly. They looked at each other, finally confirming that something was very wrong with tonight's dinner. Ms. Miller, one of Ethan's classmates, was the first to speak up. Everyone knows that Andrew's design was a copy of Ethan's. Ethan is clearly the rising star in the design industry. Sophia didn't look at him. Instead, she looked down at Ethan. He was red-eyed, gripping his wine glass tightly, looking deeply wronged. Sophia let out a derisive laugh. Andrew copied Ethan? Do you have any proof? I don't, but it's a fact everyone knows. Do you have a job? Sophia didn't argue with him. She swirled the wine in her glass, looking at the indignant young man with contempt. Ethan, still clutching his glass, finally spoke. Sophia, my classmates are all very talented. They will sooner or later become key designers in one of the companies here. Sophia couldn't help but laugh out loud. All eyes fell on her. She said coldly, the leaders here wouldn't be interested in someone so blind. What do you mean by that? Ethan, your sister is being so rude. You always praise her for being so understanding. How could she say something so harsh? I'm rude. I'm harsh. You accuse my husband of plagiarism without a shred of evidence, and you have the nerve to talk about manners. It's something everyone knows. Then why don't you open your phone and take a look? The internet is buzzing with news of Ethan's plagiarism. What? Ethan shot up, knocking over his wine glass, which shattered on the floor. He ignored his soaked clothes and frantically looked at his new boss. The man wasn't looking at him. Like everyone else in the room, he was staring at his phone. Ethan quickly pulled out his own phone. The latest trending topic on Twitter was a mountain of evidence proving he had plagiarized Andrew. He panicked, not understanding why Sophia was doing this. But with all the industry veterans present, he could only push forward. Sophia, we all know this is fake. Someone must be trying to frame me. Please help me clear my name. Sophia, if I did something wrong, just tell me and I'll change. I've always listened to you, Sophia. You can't let someone do this to me. How could the security footage from my own home be fake? Sophia gave him no quarter. Ethan was completely dumbfounded. Sophia, how could you slander me like this? My sister considered you her best friend. That's why she entrusted me to you. Sophia slowly revealed a smile and raised her glass to the audience. I know you were all waiting to see my Andrew fail, but a clear conscience fears no accusation. All slander and rumors will eventually be exposed by the truth. Just like today, a man as talented as Andrew will surely go far in the world of game creation. Sophia paused, taking a sip of wine. I wish you all the same success. Everyone raised their glasses and drank, their eyes now on Ethan with a playful, mocking gaze. You've hurt Ethan like this, he'll never forgive you. His sister will never forgive you either. Ethan's classmates shouted from behind. Do I need their forgiveness? Sophia strode out of the room. Ethan scrambled to his boss's side, but before he could speak, the man said, You haven't even made a name for yourself, and you're already a plagiarist. And you've offended 2 major companies. We can't accommodate a big shot like you. He collapsed to the floor. The crowd dispersed. For a long time, he couldn't process what had just happened. Why'd everything turn out like this? Hashtag. Andrew watched the official statement from Miller Corp, detailing the evidence of Ethan's plagiarism, and a bitter smile touched his lips. The boss of Miller Corp. I have a feeling you have some connection with her. What was it again? Anyway, we need to thank her properly. This is a huge win. Dave was rambling, pacing around the office with excitement. Andrew wasn't as ecstatic. His eyes were fixed on the steadily climbing sales figures. Hey, Andy, let's have a celebration tomorrow. How about at my old man's hotel? The whole thing on his tab. Okay. Andrew nodded. His feelings were a complicated mess, but he was happy. Happy that the new game was a hit, happy that his name was cleared, and happy that the company was on track to reach new heights. The team, which had planned to go home at 3 a.m., ended up staying until 8 a.m., fueled by the unexpected success. Andrew was the first to crash. He had been pulling all-nighters for days leading up to the launch. He left the office, went home, and fell straight into bed. But his sleep was restless. He dreamed of Sophia, of that night under the moon when they raised their glasses. In the dream, he looked at Sophia and said, I did it. Sophia smiled under the moonlight, looking just as she had in her early 20s. From now on, we go our separate ways. Andrew drained his glass and turned to leave. Then, the shrill ring of his phone pierced the dream. He fumbled for his phone. The other end was noisy. It was Dave shouting, Hurry up. The party's about to start. You're not still sleeping, are you? On my way. He got up and grabbed a black coat. When he arrived, Dave introduced him to a round of Seattle's business elites. Before he could finish his rounds, an employee came to tell him someone was looking for him. Andrew excused himself from Dave and stepped out of the banquet hall. There, standing under the moonlight, was Sophia. Their eyes met, and Sophia's instantly turned red. She had been searching all over Seattle, only to find out that Andrew was having his celebration here tonight. She had been to many cities on her own and wasn't afraid of coming to Seattle by herself, but it wasn't until she landed that she realized how little she knew about Andrew's hometown. Her flight had landed at 4 p.m., but it was already 9 p.m. by the time she found him. The sea breeze chilled her to the bone. She tightened her coat, her voice a mixture of accusation and grievance. "Did you really have to hide from me for so long just because we had a fight? Let's talk somewhere else." Andrew didn't wait for her response and started walking. As he passed her, Sophia looked at his heavy coat, feeling that he should have offered it to her. But he didn't. They went into a nearby bar. Sophia could no longer hold back her feelings. "You've had your fit. It's enough. Come back with me." "Ms. Miller, we're already divorced." "Andrew, I know you're angry. I was wrong this time. I'm apologizing, okay? Why do you have to bring up divorce?" "But we really are divorced. You signed the papers." "That's bullshit. How could I have?" She stopped mid-sentence, suddenly remembering the property transfer agreement she had hastily signed that night. It belatedly occurred to her that if it were a property transfer, someone would have followed up by now. Unless what she had signed was not a property transfer agreement. Sophia trembled, her eyes turning red, her nose burning. "Impossible. I never wanted to divorce you. I thought that was for the property." "Andrew, can't we just work this out? I don't want a divorce." "But we are divorced." "But I'm pregnant." "Andrew, I'm pregnant with your child." ####. The bar's dim lighting made it hard to see clearly. Unlike the last time he'd learned Sophia was pregnant, this time Andrew felt a profound calm. The woman before him had nothing to do with him anymore, and neither did the child in her belly. He said flatly, "That child isn't mine." Sophia froze, her hand resting on her lower abdomen. "You disowned this child just to divorce me? Don't you love children?" "Sophia, do you really think I'm that stupid? We haven't slept together since your last miscarriage. How could you be pregnant with my child?" "It is yours." "It was one night when you were drunk. You were drunk, and you slept with Ethan." Smack! A heavy slap landed on Andrew's face. He had thought she was here to negotiate the divorce settlement. Instead, she was pregnant with another man's child and expected him to be the fall guy. He tugged at the corner of his mouth, letting out a cold, two-part laugh, and stood to leave. He had only taken 2 steps when Sophia grabbed his coat from behind. She didn't move forward, but she didn't let go either. Andrew forced his way out, dragging Sophia with him out of the bar. She suddenly let go and ran to block his path. "I won't have any contact with Ethan anymore. If you don't like this baby, I'll get an abortion. Can't we have our own child, our own family? You said you'd take care of me for the rest of my life," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "You can't go back on your word. But you were the one who was unfaithful. I know I was wrong. Can't you just forgive me this one time? The cooling off period isn't over yet. I won't divorce you. I'm going to withdraw the application right now." "Are you crazy, Sophia?" "Yes, I'm crazy. I don't want to divorce you. Is that so wrong?" A bright light suddenly blinded them. They looked up to see a car hurtling toward them. Just as it was about to hit Andrew, Sophia turned, taking the full impact of the speeding vehicle. She was thrown to the ground, blood pooling between her legs. Her lips trembled as she looked weakly at Andrew. "The baby's gone. I'm clean again." Andrew ignored her, frantically dialing 911. She turned her head and saw the driver finally get out of the car. It was Ethan. "Sophia. Sophia. I didn't mean to hurt you, Sophia. He's the one who deserves to die." Sophia's head grew heavy, and she passed out. She woke up in a hospital bed. The doctor told her the baby was gone. Sophia's hand slowly moved to her abdomen. She felt no sadness. But when she saw Andrew standing at the door, a wave of sorrow washed over her. The last time, when she had personally ended the life of their child, Andrew hadn't come to the hospital. This time, when a bastard child was gone from her womb, Andrew was the one who brought her here. It was so ironic. Her eyes blurred with tears. Andrew's back looked just the same as it always had. In the past, whenever she was unwell, he would stay by her side at the hospital. If she had a fever, he would stay up all night, refusing to let anyone else watch over her. How could such a deep love just vanish? She opened her mouth and whispered, "Andrew." She hoped that when he turned around, he would have that same worried look on his face. She hoped this was all a dream, that she was just sick, and that once she was discharged, they could go back to how they were. But the moment Andrew turned, her dream shattered. His face was a cold, emotionless mask. "You're awake?" Sophia's tears flowed freely. She tried to control her breathing, but Andrew just watched her cry, saying nothing more. After a long time, as if she had cried all her tears, she said, "Andrew, I really do love you. Please, forgive me one more time, okay?" Andrew didn't understand who she was putting on this deeply emotional, pitiful act for. Other than finding it ridiculous, he felt nothing seeing Sophia cry. In truth, Sophia had had countless opportunities to save their relationship. If, after getting pregnant the first time, She had settled down and returned to their family. Had that child, their bond would have naturally deepened. He would have done his duty as a husband and father, would have found the courage to try again to guide her away from Ethan. Even earlier, when he first expressed his discomfort with Ethan's boundary-crossing behavior, if Sophia had, as a sister, drawn a clear line. Or, on their wedding anniversary, if she hadn't gone on that trip with Ethan. But every time, Sophia had chosen to push him away, until he had no expectations left. He let out a long sigh and said nothing. But after years of sharing a bed, Sophia knew exactly what his silence meant. He couldn't even be bothered to speak. She forced herself to sit up, about to say more, when Ethan stumbled into the room. He had been curled up in the hospital corridor, crying, ever since Sophia went into surgery. His eyes were still red and swollen. The moment Ethan opened his mouth, his legs gave out, and he dropped to his knees. Sophia, I really didn't mean to, Sophia. Sophia, was that our baby? Sophia, our baby is gone. It's all Andrew's fault. He kept trying to ruin our relationship. He killed our baby, Sophia. Sophia gripped the bedsheets, leaned forward, and slapped Ethan across the face. You manipulated me into having your child. You interfered in our marriage, and you tried to kill Andrew. What right do you have to stand here and play the victim? Sophia, didn't you say you wanted to have a baby for me? Sophia, it's Andrew who's pushing you. He's trying to drive you crazy. I'm not like him. I don't blame you for what you did to me before. Sophia, if you just come back, we can still be together. Sophia let out a cold laugh. Come back. Back where? You hit me with your car, made me lose my child. You might not be going back to Chicago. What do you want me to go back to? Sophia, what do you mean? Ethan whipped his head around. The police were walking into the room. Who reported an attempted murder? Ethan's eyes darted between Sophia and Andrew. He heard Sophia's voice from the bed. I did. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Ethan was completely frozen. The police questioned him about the incident, but he seemed to hear nothing, his eyes fixed on Sophia. After a long silence, he let out a bitter laugh. Sophia, are you saying you're blameless in all this? Now that it's come to this, you're putting all the blame on me? Are you such a good person yourself? An officer moved to restrain him, but Ethan violently shoved him away. Andrew, standing by the door, took another step back. Ethan's desperate roar filled the room. Without your encouragement, would I have dared to get close to you? You were the one who kept giving me hope. And now that I'm useless to you, you're just going to kick me to the curb. I manipulated you? I could only manipulate you because you wanted to be manipulated in the first place. Shut up. Sophia's eyes were bloodshot. You got me drunk. You filled my head with lies about Andrew. You were the one driving a wedge between us. I said he had issues, but weren't you the one complaining? You said Andrew didn't understand you. You said you were lonely. Ha ha ha. You've had your fun, and now you don't want to take responsibility. So you team up with this son of a bitch to send me to jail. Well done. You two are really something. Ethan turned to Andrew. But hey man, a woman I've slept with. You still want her? How's that green hat feel? Is it warm? Shut your mouth. Sophia scrambled out of bed and, with all her strength, slapped Ethan across the face. Ethan lunged at her, and Sophia's back slammed against the bed frame. She crumpled to the floor in pain. The police quickly subdued Ethan and dragged him out. His voice echoed down the hall. Bitch. You fucking bitch. I hope you die a miserable death. As Ethan's voice faded, Sophia gritted her teeth and tried to pull herself up using the bed, but the pain was too much. She looked at Andrew, her eyes pleading. Andrew turned and called for 2 nurses. Numb, Sophia let the nurses help her back into bed. She closed her eyes, her heart aching. You can't even bear to touch me now? You think I'm that dirty? Get some rest. When you're feeling better, if you have any other thoughts about the asset division, we can talk then. Andrew turned to leave. Andrew! Sophia's voice was almost a scream. I'm begging you. Stay. Don't leave me. Andrew's figure paused for a moment. Then he strode away. The sound of his footsteps echoed in the empty hospital room, each one landing like a hammer blow on her heart. Sophia collapsed onto the bed, her tears soaking the pillow, the wound in her abdomen throbbing. She felt that the hospital was the coldest place on earth. A fear she hadn't felt in years washed over her again. She curled up under the covers, trembling, as if at any moment a woman would appear and strangle her. When she was 14, her family had been thrown into chaos, and the burden had fallen on her. She lived in constant fear that someone would jump out and kill her over company shares. She had fallen gravely ill, and, during that hospital stay, someone would knock on her door at night to frighten her. After that, Sophia developed a phobia of hospitals. No matter how sick she was, she refused to go, until she met Andrew. He had treated her like a precious treasure, rushing her to the hospital at the slightest sign of discomfort. She was afraid of being hospitalized, so Andrew would bring his work to her room and stay up all night with her. As entrepreneurs, their bodies were worn down from overwork, and Sophia's hospital stays became almost routine. But Andrew had never once shown a hint of impatience. Andrew's love had always been her greatest source of pride. But why? Why did such a deep love have to disappear? And what could she possibly do to win it back? Sophia cried until she had no strength left. Her phone rang for a long time before she managed to answer it with a trembling hand. "Ms. Miller, there's a crisis at the company." The moment she heard the words, a mouthful of blood sprayed across the white bedsheets. ####. Sophia called for a nurse, wanting to be discharged. The nurse looked hesitant. "Ma'am, you can barely even stand up right now. You really need a rest. If you don't have anyone at home, it could be dangerous. I have some urgent business. Ma'am, you should really have a family member come. We'd feel more at ease if someone was with you." A family member? The only family member who had ever truly cared for her had just made it clear he didn't want her anymore. "Ms. Miller." Her assistant knocked on the door. She had rushed all the way from Chicago and was shocked to see Sophia in such a weakened state. "Ms. Miller, what happened to you?" "It's nothing. Go handle the discharge paperwork with the nurse." Her assistant frowned, but ultimately nodded and went out with the nurse. The attending physician came in just then, holding Sophia's chart and sighing. "You just lost another baby recently, didn't you?" "Yes, 4 months ago." "Did you not rest properly after that? Did you attend any events or anything?" "A few networking dinners." "You're so young. How could you be so reckless with your body, right, after losing a child? Even if you don't want children, your body is still your own." "Doctor, what's really wrong with me?" "You lost this child as well, and I'm afraid it will be very difficult for you to have children in the future." Sophia's heart clenched. She had never been particularly fond of children and was even afraid of childbirth. But why, upon hearing she would likely never have children again, did she feel such a profound sadness? Andrew loved children so much. If she couldn't have them, would he still want her? Sophia's already confused mind became even more chaotic. She gripped the bedsheets tightly, fresh tears falling from her nearly cried-out eyes. The doctor, feeling a pang of pity, said gently, "You're still young. Who knows what the future holds? But your body definitely needs to rest. Otherwise, if you deplete all your reserves, how can you ever recover? Right?" Sophia nodded. "I really don't recommend you leave the hospital. You have your whole life to make money. Why do you have to sacrifice your health for it?" She wanted to agree with the doctor, but thinking of the panicked voices of her managers on the phone, she said, "Thank you, but I really have something urgent I need to handle." She was in charge of Miller Corp. Many people were waiting for it to fail, waiting to see her become a laughingstock. She wouldn't let them see that. Sophia forced herself out of bed. With every step, her legs felt weak, on the verge of collapsing. She had always thought of herself as a powerful person, easily managing a huge company, letting everyone know that Sophia Miller was not to be trifled with. But it was only now that she realized Andrew had been cleaning up her messes all along. Since Andrew left, problems had been piling up. If she backed down now, not only would her rivals be delighted, but Andrew would look down on her too. Andrew had once called her a star in the business world. Well, she would continue to shine until Andrew saw her again and fell in love with her again. The doctor didn't press further. After her assistant finished the paperwork, Sophia took a red-eye flight back to Chicago. She slept on the plane and felt a little stronger upon arrival. But as her car pulled up to the office building, she was blocked by an elderly couple. The woman, heavy-set, threw herself in front of Sophia. "Where's my son? Give me back my son." Sophia was stunned. "I don't know your son." She impatiently waved at the security guards. Just as they ran over, the woman shouted, "You're lying. You slept with my son, and you say you don't know him." The man swung a cane at her, hitting her square in the spine. Sophia cried out in pain as the woman continued to scream. "Where did you hide my son, you little bitch? My Ethan, my poor Ethan." It was only then that Sophia realized they were talking about Ethan. She asked in shock, "Isn't Ethan an orphan?" ####. You're the orphan. Your whole family are orphans. The security guards held back the elderly couple. Sophia's assistant tried to usher her inside, but she remained standing at the entrance. The cold wind howled, a sudden, sobering blast. So his orphan status was a lie too. From the very beginning, Ethan had planned to use her friendship with Grace to get close to her. The irony was laughable. She, who prided herself on being worldly and astute, had been completely fooled by such a crude trick. "You little whore, you slut. My son is so young. And you, a married woman, seduced him. And now you and that dog of a husband of yours have sent my son to jail. I'm telling you, if you don't give me back my son, I'll kill myself right here. I'm going to sue you, you little whore. Sue me? If I had committed a crime, I'd be the one in jail, not Ethan. What ground do you have to sue me? The woman's eyes were vicious as she pointed a finger at Sophia's nose. I knew you were no good, just like that worthless girl. Instead of getting married and having babies like a good girl, you dare to send a man to jail. That worthless girl is dead, and you should be too. You should all be dead. Sophia froze. She realized the worthless girl she was talking about must be Grace. To hear her described like that by her own parents filled Sophia with a fresh wave of grief for her friend. But if Ethan's orphan status was a lie, was the story of Grace's death also different for what he had told her? A numbness spread through her. She opened her mouth, her voice barely a whisper. Tell me how Grace died, and I'll tell you where Ethan is. Huh? How'd she die? How else does a worthless girl die? I found such a good family for her to marry into, and she refused. I'd already taken the dowry, and she dared to run away in the middle of the night. Thank God heaven has eyes, and she died on the road. Sluts like you who don't know their place. Heaven will come for you sooner or later. Sophia couldn't believe it. She walked up to the old woman. What? What did you say? Her mind reeled, flashing with images of Grace's sweet face. She had said she wanted to get out of the mountains, that she wanted to build her own career. Her life should have been so beautiful. Sophia struggled to breathe. How much was the dowry? $60,000. What are you asking for? Where's my son? Give me back my son. Sophia closed her eyes and took a deep, shuddering breath. She couldn't believe that for all these years, she had not only been living a lie, but had been lavishing care on her best friend's murderer. She gritted her teeth and turned to go into the office. Ethan's parents were still screaming curses. She glanced at the security guards. Find some thugs. Beat them up. Sophia walked into her company. A stack of proposals sat on her desk. She rubbed her temples and went straight into a meeting. She spent 3 full days at the office, holding more than a dozen meetings, finally resolving the most pressing issues. She never left the building. Ethan's parents, after being taught a lesson by the thugs, still showed up every day. She looked down from her window and saw them still making a scene outside. Her assistant came in with a file. Sophia asked, "What are they yelling about now?" The assistant didn't dare to speak, instead just showing her a video. Ethan's mother was accusing her of seducing her son, of being shameless, of framing him. The same old lines. "Call the police," Sophia said flatly. After the assistant left, she collapsed into her chair as if all her strength had left her. She hadn't felt this exhausted in a long time. She wanted to go find Andrew, but she couldn't leave with the company in such a state. A financial news alert popped up on her phone. She glanced at it and saw Andrew's name. Regarding the upcoming IPO of his branch office, Andrew Carter stated, "Opening the branch in the coastal city of Seattle has truly allowed us to ride the waves of change. And in the gaming industry, we have, in a way, reached a summit. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. A summit." Sophia stared at the word, thinking of the year she and Andrew had made their pact to meet at the top. Tears fell silently onto her phone screen. She closed her eyes. That year, Andrew was just starting his business, while Miller Corp was already a success. She was confident and radiant, and Andrew's eyes were filled with nothing but her. That year, she had decided to marry him, initially thinking it was just a strategic business alliance. But Andrew's unwavering care had made her truly fall in love with him. That year, they had taken the Chicago business world by storm, hailed by everyone as a match made in heaven. Now, time had passed. Andrew, on his own, had truly reached the summit, and she had broken her promise. "Ms. Miller, you have a delivery." Her assistant knocked on the door. Sophia took a deep breath, her back to the assistant, and said in a voice carefully controlled to hide her emotions, "Just put it on the table." After the assistant left, she turned around and opened the envelope. On the small red booklet were 2 words, stark and glaring. Divorce certificate. Those 2 words were blinding. Before she and Andrew had gotten their marriage license, they had planned for months, getting their assets appraised, signing a prenuptial agreement. It had taken 3 months to finally get the license. She had joked at the time, "Getting a marriage license is such a hassle. I never want to do this again." Andrew had ruffled her hair. "It's mostly the legal stuff that's a pain. It's weird. People get married not planning to get divorced. We shouldn't have to go through all this trouble." Andrew hadn't answered. Her face had immediately changed. "You're not already thinking about divorce, are you?" she had pressed. "Of course not." Andrew's reply had been firm and decisive. They had married in love. Who would have thought that a joke from back then would one day become a reality in the form of a divorce certificate? Sophia knew she had wronged Andrew in their relationship, but she had never once wanted to leave him. Now, Andrew was doing better and better. She had no face to disturb his life. Sophia thought if she could just make Miller Court better and better, if she could reach the summit, she could surely win Andrew back. She had the ability to attract him once. She still had it now. Sophia put away the divorce certificate and went back to reviewing proposals. She decided to pour all her energy into the company. She would meet Andrew at the top again. But her efforts lasted only a month before she collapsed at work. When she woke up in a hospital room, she saw the doctor's grim expression. "Ms. Miller, your body is severely depleted. This time, we barely pulled you back from the brink. Forget about working at this intensity. Right now, if you don't rest properly, there's no guarantee you'll wake up the next time." Sophia felt numb. She hadn't realized her body was in such a dire state. But after collapsing this time, her mind didn't feel as sharp as it used to. She nodded, signaling to the doctor that she would follow his advice. The doctor sighed and left the room. Sophia still wanted to work. She opened her phone, and the first thing she saw was a mass message from Andrew's assistant. It was a link with a simple line of text above it. "You are cordially invited to our company's IPO ceremony." Sophia asked her assistant to book her a flight to Seattle. The assistant asked, "Ms. Miller, your health. Don't worry, I won't overexert myself this time." Her assistant asked repeatedly if she should accompany her, but Sophia refused every time. She didn't want anyone to see her in such a pathetic state, especially not Andrew. So, when she arrived at the hotel, she watched Andrew from a distance, across a sea of people. The man had long shed his youthful innocence. He was a dazzling figure in the crowd. Sophia had no intention of pushing through the throng. She thought she would wait until the ceremony was over and ask him out for a proper farewell. Her body had failed her. That meant Miller Corp could no longer grow under her leadership. She had lost completely. Just as she was about to turn and enter the banquet hall, a knife was pressed against her neck. The cold touch sent a shiver down her spine. ####. Andrew was discussing potential investors for the next project with Dave when a sudden commotion rippled through the crowd. His eyes were drawn to the center of the disturbance. His heart seized. His uncle, Frank Carter, was holding a knife to Sophia's throat. Frank, with his yellowed teeth, sneered as he slowly approached Andrew. "Long time no see, little nephew." It had been a long time, but Andrew would never forget that face, no matter how much it changed. That day, Frank, in a bid for the family inheritance, had framed and murdered his parents, then played the part of the innocent, grieving relative, offering to raise him. Andrew, armed with all the evidence, had gritted his teeth and sent Frank to prison. For his parents' 2 lives, Frank had only served a little over a decade. Andrew clenched his jaw. "I didn't expect you to get out so soon." His gaze fell on Sophia. "Our business has nothing to do with her. How could your wife have nothing to do with it? It doesn't feel good to lose a loved one, does it? Want to try again? She and I have no feelings for each other. We're already divorced. You're full of shit. If you're divorced, why is she here?" Andrew let out a cold laugh. "If you kill her, you'll just go back to prison. If you're lucky, maybe you'll get the death penalty this time. But to me, she's just an unlucky bystander." His face was a mask of indifference. The knife in Frank's hand broke Sophia's skin. A pained expression crossed her face, but Andrew's demeanor remained cool and detached. Frank finally seemed to believe that they were really divorced. He had risked everything this time to trade his life for Andrew's. What was the point of taking a useless pawn? "A guest dies at your party, Andrew. Will your conscience be clear? There's not much I can do about that. After all, I don't know what you want, uncle. I want you, my dear nephew. You come over here, and I'll let her go." Without a moment's hesitation, Andrew started walking toward Frank. Frank was right about one thing. This was between them. No innocent people should die here. Just as Andrew was a meter away from Frank, Frank shoved Sophia aside and lunged at Andrew. Andrew, who had trained in martial arts for years, twisted and grabbed Frank's wrist. The security guards, who had been lying in wait, swarmed them. Frank was pinned to the ground, screaming curses. "You little bastard, you played me. You just wait. As long as I'm alive, I won't let you off easy. Uncle, this time, I won't let you get out." The police took Frank away. The sudden incident had unsettled the guests. Andrew offered a toast and a threefold apology to everyone, then finally looked at Sophia. "Are you okay?" Sophia shook her head, a smile appearing on her bloodless face. "I'm fine. I just came to see your company's IPO ceremony. I wish you all the best." "You too." Andrew's voice was calm, distant, like ice picks stabbing at her heart. She used the excuse of a work emergency to leave hastily, afraid that if she stayed a second longer, Andrew would see her lose her composure. On the flight back, she cried until she passed out. She was taken to the hospital straight from the airport. This time, the doctor's face was filled with pity. "Ms. Miller, I know. I don't have much time left, do I?" The doctor didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. Sophia slowly gave her final instructions. "For Ethan's case, I will never issue a letter of forgiveness. No matter what, I want him to stay in prison. From now on, whenever Andrew's company releases a new game, promote it under the Miller Corp name. After I'm gone, don't issue an obituary. I don't want him to know. ####. February 22nd happened to be New Year's Eve. After finishing work, Andrew took a bouquet of flowers to his parents' grave. "Mom, Dad, I sent your murderer back to prison. This time, I'm not scared or panicked at all. I'm going to lay out all the evidence and make sure he spends the rest of his life in misery. And it turns out you can be happy after a divorce. In this time, I've finally found myself." As he spoke, a smile spread across his face. He talked nonstop, from the establishment of the Seattle office to its current growth, telling his parents every detail with immense pride. At the end, he told them another piece of news. Ethan had been beaten up in prison, had fallen seriously ill, and was now half dead. His parents had tried to get him out for treatment, but they had no money, and he eventually died from his illness. Throughout all of this, Andrew had heard nothing about Sophia. He assumed she was busy with the personnel turmoil at Miller Corp. But none of that had anything to do with him anymore. He stood at the graveside for a long time. It wasn't until the sky grew dark and people started setting off fireworks that he went home. He sat on his balcony, looking out at the city lights, the world bustling with celebration. Snow began to fall, illuminating the landscape in the moonlight. Seattle snow was always thick enough to hide a person. He watched groups of people playing in the snow below. He didn't know how long he watched, but then he heard a cheer. A bell tolled. The new year had arrived. Andrew was about to go to bed when someone knocked on his door. He opened it to find his employees, who hadn't gone home for the holidays, smiling and holding a gift box. "Mr. Carter, you don't mind if we come in for some pizza, do you?" Before Andrew could even nod, the young people all rushed in. He closed the door, watching them bustle about, a deep warmth spreading through his chest. On New Year's Eve, it didn't snow in Chicago. Sophia lay in the hospital, her consciousness fading. In her final moments, the sound of celebration from outside made her think of that year she and Andrew had stood on a skyscraper, dreaming of a brilliant future. But looking back, her life hadn't been brilliant at all. Still, at least she had seen Andrew fulfill their promise to meet at the top. Sophia let out a short, shallow breath. Her hand fell limp onto the white bedsheet, and 2 tears traced paths from the corners of her eyes.